I still hear it even now at the age of Dory, sitting in this silent living room where the afternoon light gently filters through the curtains. I still hear the sound of that iron door slamming shut behind me on that night in April 1944. It is not a memory, it is a presence, the cold of the metal against my bare back, the smell of mold and male sweat embedded in the walls, the heavy breathing of someone who did not see my face as human. I spent 63 years trying to erase it, but some memories do not die. They simply wait, hidden in the darkness until you are alone enough to face them. My name is Isolde de Marivaux, and what I am about to tell you does not appear in history books. It is not in the official reports on the Nazi occupation of France, because what they did to the 45 of us taken from our homes in a single day was deliberately erased, buried, reduced to silence for decades. But I survived, and as long as my voice still works, the truth will not die with me. I was born in 1920 in a small village north of Lyon, surrounded by vineyards my grandfather had cultivated since childhood. Life there was simple, predictable, shaped by the seasons and by the church bell that rang 3 times a day. My father was a blacksmith. My mother sewed dresses for the women of the region. I was the eldest of 3 sisters. I learned early how to care for the house, how to bake bread, how to wash clothes in the icy river during winter. We had very little, but we had dignity. We had a name. We had a face. I was Isolde, not a number, not an object. I was a person. When the war began in 1939, the German occupation still seemed distant, something happening in Paris, in the big cities. But war has a way of spreading, like an oil stain on clear water. It contaminates everything. In 1943, German soldiers arrived in our region. They set up a command post in an abandoned manor 3 kilometers from the village. Suddenly, there were gray uniforms in the streets, harsh German voices echoing through the squares, orders shouted at people who did not understand, and there were looks that scanned our bodies as if evaluating livestock. I still remember the day everything changed. It was April 10th, a Tuesday. The sky was low, heavy with gray clouds that seemed to foretell something terrible. I was helping my mother hang laundry in the courtyard when I heard the sound of trucks approaching. These were not the supply trucks we already knew. They were larger, heavier, moving slowly as if searching for something. My mother stopped what she was doing and looked at me with the kind of fear only a woman who has lived through war can recognize. She said nothing. She simply grabbed my hand and pulled me toward the house. But it was already too late. The trucks stopped in front of our door. I still hear the sound of boots hitting the cobblestones, drawing closer. The door was kicked in with a single blow. 3 soldiers entered. One of them held a list. My name was on it. Isolde de Marivaux, 24 years old, single, healthy, fit. They explained nothing. They simply pointed at me and said something in German I did not understand. My mother began to scream. She grabbed my arm, begging in French for them to let me stay. One of the soldiers shoved her so hard she fell to the ground. My little sister, Margot, started crying. My father was not home. He had gone to the market in the neighboring town. I never saw him again. I was dragged out of the house. I had no time to take anything, not a coat, not a photograph, not one last embrace. I was thrown into the back of a truck covered with a dark tarp where other women were already packed together. Some were crying, others were silent, their eyes glassy, as if they already understood that crying would change nothing. I recognized some of them: Marie, the baker's daughter, Simone, who worked at the school, Hélène, who had been married just 3 months earlier. In total, there were 45 of us. The youngest was 17, the oldest 42. Age did not matter. It did not matter whether we were mothers, wives, daughters. It did not matter if we had dreams, plans, families waiting for us. There, in that dark truck that smelled of fear and urine, We stopped being people. We became cargo. The journey lasted for hours. I don't know how many. I lost all sense of time. The truck swayed violently on broken roads. Some women vomited, others fainted. I remained still, leaning against the rough wooden wall, feeling the cold seep in through holes in the tarp. I tried to memorize the route by sound, the crunch of gravel, the sound of a river, the distant whistle of a train, anything that might help me find my way back one day. But the truth is, I already knew I would never return as the same person. When the truck finally stopped, the tarp was ripped away. The late afternoon light blinded me for a few seconds. When my eyes adjusted, I saw where we were. A camp surrounded by barbed wire, wooden barracks lined up in rows, watchtowers, armed soldiers at every corner, and in the background, a larger stone building with narrow windows barred with iron. This was not a labor camp. It was not an ordinary prison. It was something else, something the official records would later deny ever existed. We were forced to get down one by one, in silence, without looking to the sides. A tall German officer in an immaculate uniform walked slowly along the line, observing us as one inspects merchandise. He stopped in front of some women, lifted their chins with the tip of a leather-gloved finger, turned their faces from side to side. When he reached me, he stopped. I smelled tobacco and expensive cologne. He said something in German to another soldier who wrote something down on a clipboard. Then he moved on. I did not yet know what it meant. I would soon find out. We were led inside a barrack. The floor was packed dirt. There were crude wooden bunks, thin torn blankets, and a single bucket in the corner that served as a latrine. The roof had holes. You could see the sky through them. That first night, no one slept. We lay awake, pressed against one another, trying to understand what was happening. Some prayed, others simply trembled. I stared at the ceiling, at the stars appearing through the holes, and thought of my mother. I wondered how she was at that moment, if she was still crying, if my father had returned, if Margot was afraid. Then I heard a scream from the stone building, a sharp, desperate scream that was suddenly cut off, as if someone had covered the woman's mouth by force. Then silence. If you are listening to this story now, wherever you are in the world, know that what I am about to tell you was never recorded in any court. It appears in no museum. There is no commemorative plaque, but it happened. And if there is one thing I have learned in 87 years of life, it is that silence protects the guilty. The truth must be told, even if it hurts, even if no one wants to hear it.